Hi students, and welcome to the second lecture, which is number system part 2. In the previous lecture we have studied about natural numbers, whole numbers, integers and rational numbers. In this lecture we are going to study about what are irrational numbers, how are they different from the rational numbers. Also we are going to study something about the real numbers, and finally we are going to study some of the very important properties of irrational numbers together with some solved examples. So let's begin. Earlier we have studied about natural numbers, whole numbers and integers, and all these three numbers belong to the set of rational numbers. And we know that rational numbers can be represented on the number line. So we can say that there are numbers on the number line that are rational. But what about those numbers that are not rational? So there must be on the number line some numbers that are not rational. What exactly about them? What are they? So that's something we are going to figure out in this lecture. So now let's see the different types of numbers in the decimal expression. So the types of numbers when expressed in the decimal form. We can represent any number in the decimal form, and this is something we already know. Now there are two cases. Either the decimal representation of any number could be non-terminating or it could be terminating. The meaning of terminating is that it has an end point. So non-terminating would be something that is unending. So it would continue and continue and continue. So non-terminating is something that continues forever. So any number in the decimal representation could be a terminating one or a non-terminating one. Further, if any number is non-terminating, then either it could be recurring or it could be non-recurring. Recurring is something that happens in a periodic manner or something that repeats itself after a fixed interval. And non-recurring means that there is no periodicity in that. So we do not get a fixed pattern in that. Now, if any number that is represented in the decimal form is terminating, then all such numbers belong to the set of rational numbers. So any number which has a terminating decimal representation is a rational number. Now further, for the case of non-terminating numbers, there are two cases, recurring and non-recurring. If the non-terminating decimal representation is recurring, then it is also a rational number. So all such numbers which are non-terminating as well as recurring are known as rational numbers. And we have been left with one category, that is non-terminating and non-recurring. Such numbers are known as irrational numbers. So any number can be expressed in the decimal form. Now there are two cases, either the decimal form could be terminating or it could be non-terminating. If it is terminating, then such a number is a rational number. And again, if it's non-terminating, there are two cases. The first is it could be a recurring decimal or it could be a non-recurring decimal. If it's a recurring decimal, then it is a rational number, and if it's a non-terminating, non-recurring number, then it is a irrational number. So that's the basic difference between irrational numbers and rational numbers. Irrational numbers have non-terminating and non-recurring decimal representation. Now let's try to again see what is a terminating decimal. A decimal that ends after fixed number of digits is called as terminating decimal. So in other words, we can say that a terminating decimal doesn't keep going. So to terminate means to end. So any decimal number that ends after fixed number of digits is called as terminating decimal. So for example, 2 by 5 is equal to 0.4. So when we divide 2 by 5, we get the answer as 0.4, and we clearly see that it isn't going on. So this number ends at 4. So this is a terminating decimal. Similarly, when we divide 31 by 4, or 31 by 4 is expressed as a decimal number, then it comes out to be equal to 7.75. So this number clearly ends at 5. Similarly, 7 by 5 is equal to 1.4, and again it is a terminating decimal. So terminating decimal is a decimal that ends after a fixed number of digits. Now a rational number p by q is a terminating decimal only when prime factors of q are 2 or 5 or both. So for any number to be a terminating decimal, the condition is that when we consider q, which is the denominator of a rational number, then the prime factors of q should be 2 or 5, or they could be both. Here we see that the denominator is 5, so we get a terminating decimal. Now here we note that the denominator is 4. 2 is a factor of this number, so we get a terminating decimal. Similarly, for 7 by 5, we get a terminating decimal 1.4. So any rational number p by q is a terminating decimal only when the prime factors of q are 2 or 5 or both. Now let's see the other case, which is the non-terminating decimal representation. So decimals that are not terminating are called as non-terminating. They keep on going. So it's just the opposite of terminating decimals. So decimals which are not terminating are called as non-terminating, or we can say that they keep on going. So there's no end to the number of digits after the decimal point. So now there are two cases for non-terminating numbers. Either they could be recurring decimals or they could be non-recurring decimals. So non-terminating numbers are decimals that are not terminating. And now again there are two cases. Either they could be recurring decimals or they could be non-recurring decimals. So the first is recurring decimals. Of course, we are considering the case that the number is non-terminating. So what is recurring decimal? A decimal in which a digit or a group of digits repeats periodically is called as a recurring decimal. So any decimal representation in which a digit or a group of digits repeats periodically is called as a recurring decimal. So we get a fixed pattern in this recurring decimals. For example, if we consider the number 4 by 3, now when we divide 4 by 3, we get the number as 1.33333333 and so on. So this 3 repeats itself continuously. So thus this is a recurring decimal. Similarly, when we see the case for 1 by 6, we get the answer as 0.166666. Here we see that 6 is a repeating digit. So any decimal in which a digit or a group of digits repeats periodically is called as a recurring decimal. The next is the non-recurring decimals. So we can say that a decimal in which the digits after the decimal do not follow any fixed pattern is known as non-recurring decimal. So any decimal representation in which the digits after the decimal do not follow a fixed pattern or they are not periodic. So such type of decimal numbers are known as non-recurring decimals. For example, if we consider this number 0.200,300,200,0003 and so on, here we clearly see that there's no fixed pattern. So these numbers are in a haphazard manner. They do not reflect a fixed pattern, and that is why this is an example of non-recurring decimal. So finally we can say that such numbers that are neither terminating nor recurring are known as irrational numbers. We can say that irrational numbers are the numbers that are non-terminating and non-recurring. So let's study about the irrational numbers in detail. Any number is called irrational if it cannot be written in the form of p by q, where p and q are integers and q is not equal to 0. So we have seen the definition of rational numbers. Rational numbers are the numbers that can be expressed in the form of p by q, where p and q are integers and q is not equal to 0. So any number which cannot be expressed in this form is an irrational number. Now there are infinitely many irrational numbers. Just as we have infinitely many rational numbers, similarly we have infinitely many irrational numbers. Example of irrational numbers are root 2, root 3, root 15, pi, 0.10111011101110 and so on. So these are some of the examples of irrational numbers. So any number which cannot be expressed in the form of p by q, where p and q are integers and q is not equal to 0. Such numbers are known as irrational numbers. Just as rational numbers are infinite, we can have infinitely many irrational numbers, and some of the examples of irrational numbers are these. Let's give a brief look at the history of irrational numbers. How did they actually appear? The Pythagoreans proved that root 2 is irrational. So I'm pretty sure you have studied about Pythagoras theorem. Pythagoreans were the first to prove that root 2 is a rational number. Later, in approximately 425 BC, Theodorus of Cyrene showed that root 3, root 5, root 6, root 7, root 10, root 11, root 12, root 13, root 14, root 15 and root 17 are also irrational numbers. Pi was proved to be irrational by Lambert and Legendre only in the late 1700s. Later on, so many developments took place about the study of irrational numbers, and this is just a brief history of irrational numbers. What we can just think of is irrational numbers have their roots in mathematics from the ancient times. Now, let us say that this is a bag which contains the rational numbers. So, all the rational numbers are contained in this bag. 1, 23, 2 by 3, minus 9 by 23, 0, minus 11, and there are so many rational numbers. So, every rational number is contained in this bag. And let's take for the case that this bag contains all the irrational numbers. For example, root 3, root 2, pi, root 5, root 11, and so on. So, such bag contains all the irrational numbers. What happens is, one by one, all these irrational numbers get transferred into this bag which contains the rational numbers. Now, this bag contains all the rational numbers and all the irrational numbers. So, such a bag is known as a bag of real numbers. So, all the rational numbers and irrational numbers together constitute the real numbers. So, the set of rational numbers plus the set of all the irrational numbers is known as the set of real numbers. Now, we can say that every number that can be represented on the number line is called a real number. Every number that you can think of and that which could be represented on the number line is called as a real number. Or in other words, we can say that every real number can be represented on the number line. So, all the real numbers can be represented on the number line, or every number that could be represented on the number line is a real number. Now, some of the useful results on irrational numbers. So, basically, we have devoted this lecture to the study of irrational numbers. So, let's see some of the useful results on irrational numbers. From 1, negative of an irrational number is an irrational number. So, the negative or the minus of an irrational number is also an irrational number. So, let's see the proof of this. Let us say that y be an irrational number. Then we have to show that minus y is also an irrational number. This is what we need to prove. So, let us suppose that minus y is a rational number. Instead of taking minus y as a rational number, let us suppose that minus y is a rational number. Now, we also know that negative of a rational number is also a rational number. So, from this, what we get is, as minus y is a rational number, this is a supposition we have taken. So, minus of minus y should also be a rational number. Minus of minus y is y. So, y should be a rational number. But this contradicts our supposition because we took y to be an irrational number. So, we can say that minus y is also an irrational number and not a rational number. Thus, the negative of an irrational number is also an irrational number. Let's see theorem number 2. The sum of a rational number and an irrational number is an irrational number. So, this says that the sum of a rational number and an irrational number is an irrational number. So, let's see the proof of this. Let us say that p be a rational number and q be an irrational number. Then we have to show that p plus q is an irrational number. Now, how to do that? Let us suppose that p plus q is a rational number. Instead of taking this as a rational number, let's take the case that p plus q is a rational number. Now we know that difference of two rational numbers is always a rational number. Since p plus q is a rational number and p is also a rational number, therefore p plus q minus p should be a rational number, because we know that the difference of two rational numbers is a rational number. So, p plus q minus p should be a rational number, and from this we get q as a rational number. But again, this contradicts the fact that pi is an irrational number. So, I've taken the case that q is an irrational number, but what we get is q a rational number. Thus, these two facts contradict each other, and therefore p plus q is an irrational number. The sum of a rational number and an irrational number is always an irrational number. See the third theorem. It says that the product of a non-zero rational number and an irrational number is an irrational number. So, earlier we have seen that the sum of a rational number and an irrational number is always an irrational number. Now the case is we are taking the product of a rational number and an irrational number, and again the final result is an irrational number. So again we are going to look at the proof of this. Let us say that x be a non-zero rational number and y be an irrational number. So let's take x to be a non-zero rational number and y to be an irrational number. We have to show that x into y is an irrational number. Again we are going to take the case that suppose xy is a rational number. Now the quotient of two non-zero rational numbers is always a rational number. So when we divide any rational number by other rational number, then the result is always a rational number. So xy is a rational number and x is also a rational number. So if we divide xy by x, then the result should be a rational number, and so what we get is y is a rational number. But again this contradicts the fact that y is an irrational number. So we can say that our supposition is wrong, that xy is a rational number. This is not possible. So xy is an irrational number. Thus the product of a non-zero rational number and an irrational number is always an irrational number. Now this is not a theorem, but it's an important point to remember. The sum, difference, product and quotient of two irrational numbers need not be an irrational number. So earlier we took a rational number and an irrational number and it was very easy to prove. But here the case is we are taking two irrational numbers. In such a case, the sum, difference, product and the quotient of two irrational numbers need not be an irrational number. So we can take a case for that. The sum of the irrational numbers root 3 and minus root 3 is 0, which is a rational number, whereas the sum of irrational numbers root 2 and root 3 is an irrational number. So now root 3 and minus root 3 both are irrational numbers, but when we add them up we get 0, and 0 is a rational number. But on the other hand, if we take two irrational numbers as root 2 and root 3, when we add them, what we get is an irrational number. We cannot tell it for sure whether if we add two irrational numbers or subtract them or multiply them or divide them, what we will get is a rational number or an irrational number. It actually depends on the two irrational numbers. Similarly, if we take the quotient of irrational number root 12 and root 3, what we get is 2, because root 12 by root 3 is equal to root 4 and which is equal to 2, and thus we see that the quotient of irrational number root 12 and root 3 is a rational number. So this is the reason we cannot say for sure that the sum, difference, product and quotient of two irrational numbers will be an irrational number. It actually depends on the value of two irrational numbers.